Everybody, I am Mary Beth Fights from My Fearless Kitchen. I tried to go live yesterday on YouTube to test this out and see how it worked, and I couldn't get it to work. So we're trying this morning. We're kind of going on the fly, and we're going to see how it goes. I had been doing a live show on Facebook for a while. Had to take a break coming through the holidays and into our busy spring season, but I miss it, and my lovely helper Danielle here says that she missed it too. And I know that some of my readers, my followers have missed it, so we're back. We're going to do YouTube live videos once a week, Friday mornings, instead of Facebook live videos. And we'll just try it out and see how it goes.
We have a new cast member.
Oh, yes! Mr. Fishy. Mr. Fishy is new. He is my son's beta fish. He'll be hanging out. He likes to help cook in My Fearless Kitchen, too. He is not afraid that I will cook him because, frankly, he's way too little. And he's hard to catch. I've had changed his water. He's very hard to catch. So my plans for this show is we're going to talk about food. We're here in My Fearless Kitchen. Some days it's messy, some days it's clean. It depends on how much cooking I did the day before and when Danielle could get here to clean it for me. So we'll be talking about food. We'll be demoing how to put together a quick recipe. And then we'll be talking about something farm related. For those of you who don't know, I live on a farm. My husband and I are veterinarians, and we raise beef cattle, and we just last week got another new addition to the family, a big old gray quarter horse named Bo. So he lives out with our cows. He's pretty happy out there. This week, we won't go outside and look at the cows today, but I'm sure there will be plenty other times that we will go do that. So if you want to see the cows, if you want to see more about that, just leave me a comment down below and let me know. Today, we're talking about one of my favorite springtime vegetables, asparagus. We're getting a little late in the peak asparagus season, but it's still out there, and you can still get it at a pretty good price. So first, we're going to talk about how to choose asparagus at the grocery store, what you want to look for, what you're going to do with it when you get it home, how to store it and keep it fresh, how to prep it, and then we're going to do a super quick, super fast, easy roasted asparagus recipe for those of you who have seen it and maybe had it at a restaurant but have never tried to cook it at home because you just don't know what to do with it. So I'm here to help chase that fear out of your kitchen. Let's stop being afraid of trying new things and let's just jump right in. All right, so this is asparagus that I actually bought a week ago, and it still is in really good condition because of the way I stored it. Can you see there's just a little bit of water in the bottom of that jar? It's a little cloudy. It needs to be changed, or these asparagus need to be used. Once you bring it home, though, this is what you want to do. You want to, let's see if I can get it out. Here we go. So you'll want to cut the ends of it off. Just cut like 1/2 inch or 1 inch off the ends till you get this nice, clean, fresh looking end. Because when you buy it in the store, it usually looks kind of dry.
Oh, yeah.
So this is, have you done that science experiment with celery when you cut off the end and you put it in a jar of blue water, and then like by 2 days later, it sucked all the blue water up the outside, and you've got blue striped celery?
No, never tried that.
Well, we'll have to do that sometime.
I'm a city girl.
But so it's the same kind of thing, is the asparagus will draw that water up from the bottom all the way up to the top. And if it's got a real dry, crusty end like that, it can't do that. So you just want to cut that dry end off to give it a nice, clean, fresh end on the bottom. And then just use a mason jar or a large mouth cup or any kind of a bowl and set it up in 1/2 inch to 1 inch of water. Keep it in your refrigerator. If you can even just use the plastic grocery bag and just loosely place that over the top, and that'll help keep even more of the moisture in. So that would look something like, there's the asparagus.
Is there a time, you think, a time limit for that to stay in the water?
So just keep an eye on it, and if you notice the water starts to get cloudy, like ours is cloudy, then it needs to be changed. The general recommendation is like 3 to 5 days.
Okay.
But like I said, we were going to try to do this video last week, and I had such a bad cough I couldn't get 2 sentences out without hacking. So we pushed it off to this week. So it's been in here for 7 or 8 days. Typically you want to try to use it up within 3 to 5
Okay.
to keep it as fresh as possible. Okay, so when you're at the grocery store, what do you look for? A couple things. You want nice bright green color, obviously. I like to try to find these thinner stalks, right? Look at the difference between that one and this one.
So why do you do that? Because I look for the thicker ones.
Okay, so the thinner ones tend to be a little more tender and less chewy. The thick ones, it means that it's more mature and it gets like, it's harder to chew. Yeah, a little more stringy.
Okay.
Yep, this is real tender, real easy to cook with, real easy to chew. This still will taste great, but it's a little more chewy, a little more stringy, like you said. Some people say it has kind of almost a woody kind of a texture. So I like the little ones. If you like the thick ones, then more power to you. Like I said, we are a little bit late. I feel like I'm a little dance with my asparagus. I talk with my hands, in case you haven't noticed that. We used to joke that
like
if
a flight attendant.
Yeah, like a flight attendant. The exits are this way and this way. We used to joke that if you tied my hands behind my back, I wouldn't be able to talk. Because I do this all the time. Oh. I wonder where it went.
Good thing we have 60 more.
There's more. All right, on that note. It's a little later in the asparagus season, so the asparagus that's available now tends to be a little bit more mature. So you'll find these thicker stalks in the grocery store instead of the thinner ones. This I bought a week ago. This one I bought yesterday. So you can, and this was the thinnest that I could find yesterday. So you can see there's a big difference in just a week. Okay, not a big deal. It still is going to taste good. You'll still be able to cook with it great. This will take a little longer to cook because it's about twice the diameter. It's about twice as thick, so it's just a little bit longer, but just like anything else. So that's not a big deal. The other thing that you want to look for when you're shopping for asparagus is pay attention to the tips and these little kind of leaf things on the tips. You want them to be dry, and you want them to be held up nice and close to the stalk. If they're getting loose, or if they're a little mushy or a little bit wet, that means that it's old and it's starting to go bad, and you won't want those. So here's our bunch, one of the bunches that we bought yesterday. And when I pulled that rubber band off, just a couple of the leaves came flying off, but most of them stayed right up tight. They all look really good. They look really dry. See how it's just nice and tight up against the stem. That's the big thing you want to pay attention to in the store. And even once you've got it home, that's your first marker that your asparagus is starting to go bad, is when the tops of them start to get soft and mushy and wet. So you can see these, even a week in my refrigerator, they still look just as fresh as the ones I bought yesterday. And that's because I kept them in this water. So when you're ready to cook it, now what? Excuse me.
You wash it?
You wash it. Just like any fresh fruit or vegetable that you bring home from the grocery store or the farmer's market or in from your garden, you need to wash it. I have already washed this right here. Just all it needs is a quick rinse under cool running water. I usually will hold it kind of with the leaf part facing down and just kind of run my hands over it real quick under the running water. And that's it. And then it's clean. And then the next thing that you'll want to do, you can either do this with a knife or you can just use your hands to break it. But you want to cut even this stuff that's been sitting in the water. You want to break off just the bottom inch or inch and a half. And if you just hold loosely right at the ends and then kind of grab the rest of your hand, wrap your other hand around the rest of the stalk and give it a snap, usually it will snap off an inch to an inch and a half. If it is really bendy, if it doesn't snap real easy like that, that usually means that it's a little bit older or not quite as fresh, and you maybe need to break off a little bit more on the bottom than just that little bit. But usually about where it wants to break itself is pretty good, and it's usually about at this first, I call it a joint, it's not really a joint, but where this first funny little leaf comes off is usually about where it will break. So you just snap those off. I did a whole bunch of this yesterday. I'm getting pretty good.
My problem, I'm anxious to see exactly how you do this in the oven.
Yeah.
As far as time and temperature, because my problem is I always, I guess, overcook it because it's soggy.
Soggy, and, yeah, that's no good. Nobody likes soggy anything.
No.
Okay, so I just have this on a baking sheet with a lip.
Okay.
Not greased, not anything. And we're going to put 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. And then I've got a little bit of salt and pepper.
The lemon juice is new to me.
All right. Well, I'm glad.
Can't wait to try it.
And then I'm just going to grab my tongs and kind of toss that around a little bit so we get it, mostly so we get that salt and pepper spread out. And then you want it roughly in about a single layer. Asparagus is sold in these bunches like this, and I think it's usually about a pound. But when you have real thick stalks like this, you don't have near as many as when you have the thin stalks like this. So if we threw these on our kitchen scale, you would see that this bunch weighs about the same as this bunch. But again, it's just a size and a weight thing. So if you have a whole bunch of little ones, you may not end up with quite a single layer like we have with our not as many thicker stems. All right, so now I'm just going to toss this in the oven. I've got the oven preheated to 350 degrees. We're going to put this in for about 10 minutes, and then we're going to check it out. Alexa, set a timer for 10 minutes. All right, she's my favorite kitchen helper. She is more helpful in here than my son. Now he's only 4, so he's not as helpful as he thinks he is.
Imagine that.
But he wants to be.
Yep.
Okay, so while our asparagus is cooking, we're going to do something else. I have got some starter trays here. We grow a huge, crazy, ridiculous, huge garden every summer. And every summer we say, I can't believe that it's so late and we haven't gotten our garden started yet. We really need to do this sooner. Next year we're going to be on it and we're going to get the garden prepped and we're going to get it ready and we're going to get it planted and we're going to have fresh tomatoes in July just like everybody else. And that never happens. Here it is, May the 4th. Be with you. Happy Star Wars Day. So today is the 4th of May. My son is very excited that it's Star Wars Day today. He went to school and told everyone at school, today's Star Wars Day! And they all think he's crazy. But anyway, I lost my train of thought. Thank you, Star Wars. So it's the 4th of May, and the garden still has last year's tomato cages on it. We have not cleaned it off. We have not tilled it. We fertilize heavily with composted cow manure from our pasture, and we haven't done that yet. So everything is behind this year, just like always.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Part of that is because the weather has been so ridiculous. April was very rainy and very cool here, very unseasonable. A lot of March was like that too. So it's not been good weather to get out. The dirt has been too wet to do anything with. So we've not done anything. It's coming though. It's time. It's finally warmed up. It's been like 80 degrees the last couple days. So hopefully the next, and of course now it's getting to be hay cutting time for us. So the garden again takes back burner to getting the hay dealt with and the cows taken care of, but so be it. So in the meantime, I'm going to start a couple of plants or a couple of seeds. Usually, so typically we'll buy some plants from a nursery or from our local shops or whatever to put in the garden. But the last couple of years we've been starting seeds as well. Now if you're starting seeds, the ideal time to do this is like March and it's like May. So there's that. We're going to do it anyway, and it's still going to be fine. The plants are going to do great, and we will transplant them out in the garden. It just means that the tomatoes and the basil that we start today won't be ready to eat until like August. But it also means that come September and October, when all of the neighbors are out of fresh tomatoes, we will still have fresh vine-ripened tomatoes. So yay for us. So to start plants, to start seeds, there's a couple things you need. You can get these in a number of different ways. Go to your local Walmart, go to your local home improvement store, wherever you like to shop for garden supplies. I just have a plain black tray. It's got these little grooves in the bottom. So my dirt pods are going to sit on top of the grooves so they're not sitting in a whole bunch of moisture if I overwater. And I have these little soil pellets. And I will get these nice and wet here in just a minute and you'll see what happens. It's pretty cool. So you can do an open tray like this. You can buy trays that have like cups in them that either come with pods like this or just come pre-filled with loose starter soil. However you prefer to do it. I'm all about doing what's going to work for you in a way that's going to work for you. And if you don't want to start garden seeds and you just want to go buy plants, do that. And if you don't want to grow a garden, don't grow a garden.
Just go to the grocery.
Go to the grocery store, go to your farmer's market.
It's so fun though. Like
it's fun.
To start it and watch it grow.
Yeah, it is fun. Okay, so I've got my little peat pods or starter soil or whatever. And I am just going to drizzle some water on. Okay, so total confession is I've not actually tried this in this fashion before. So this may not work loose in this tray because this is not exactly what I thought was going to happen. So we may have to try something else here in a second. What can you see? Is it puffing?
Yep.
I should have
It's puffing.
Should have put a not wet one in there too so we can see what happens. There it goes. So the nice thing about these is they do have kind of this little netting around them.
Oh yeah, they're breaking open.
And yeah, that netting breaks open at the top and that's where you're going to put your seeds. But the netting is biodegradable, so you can actually just take this whole thing and plant this whole thing right in your garden.
Awesome. Did you do basil last year?
Yeah, I don't remember. I've got a little kind of a kitchen garden, just outside the kitchen here. That's a raised garden where I just do herbs. And then we've got a big, giant garden. I don't remember I don't think I had basil last year. My herb garden was kind of a mess last year. All right, look at that. How cool is that?
That's pretty cool.
So here's what we started with, and that's what we ended up with. Now, you'll notice there's a lot of water loose in there. So if you do this in a little more confined space, that'd probably be a little better. And you probably use a little less water doing that. I'm going to have to either drain this water off or set these up on a little slant or something, because that's going to be too much water for them to be sitting in. But, okay, so let me grab a pair of scissors and cut these open. I thought I was all prepared. I was close.
Are you going to poke holes in the ones that did not open themselves?
Yes. So most of them opened up real well. And these ones that didn't, I can just kind of get in there with my fingernail and tear it open. And probably it's like wrong side up, I bet. Yep, there we go. Ta-da!
You're so smart.
Just flip it over. Look at that. It's like magic. Okay, so stay. Those are tiny. I've never started basil before. Look at that. That's why I've never started basil before. I feel like I need tweezers. It's nuts.
Just throw them in there and see what grows.
All right, so I'm gonna do like that many. How many I got there? 3, 6, like 7. That's too many, but that's what I got. So that's what's going in there. When you're starting seeds, you do want to do more than just one seed in a little pod because they're not all going to germinate and grow. So you always start with more than you think you need. And as your seedlings start to come up, and we'll take a look at these over the next couple weeks and see how they're growing. But as they start to come up, you can kind of thin them out. So you keep the ones that are growing well, that look really strong. If there's the later ones, you'll just yank those out and pretend they were never there. So you'll want to, it's called thinning. So you'll just have, the goal is to just end up with 1 and maybe 2 in each of these little pods when we're all done. So then I'm just gonna cover those seeds up a little bit. Kind of poke them down. Cover them up, try to keep the netting off the top. We used to buy all our garden seeds, like just from Walmart or Rural King or Home Depot or wherever. And that's fine. There is absolutely nothing wrong with shopping at those places for your garden stuff. What we have found the last 2 years or so, I was able to get samples of a brand of seeds called Seminis. It's more for professional vegetable growers. So they're kind of hard to find. They're kind of hard to come by, and they come in like packets of, 100 seeds. Nobody needs that many for garden. But those plants do so much better, and I don't know what it is, if it's the genetics of the plants, or if it's the way that the seeds have been taken care of and stored, or a combination of all of those. But we've had so much better luck with the more professional varieties. Now, again, if you're only growing 2 or 3 tomato plants like a normal person, grab a pack off the shelf from the impulse aisle at Walmart. Yeah. That's fine.
For 59 cents.
Yeah, but if you're crazy like us and you're growing, 40 tomato plants because you're going to feed the whole city.
The city thanks you, though, Mary Beth.
I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do. In that case, then you may want to look at a different company to purchase your seeds. Oh, Alexa, stop the timer. All right, I got basil here. We're going to put tomatoes here after we check the asparagus.
Yes.
It's not in that drawer anymore. We moved it. The asparagus is in the oven. These hot things were not in that drawer. Okay, so let's see what we got.
Oh, it's sizzly.
It's sizzly. It's bright green and pretty. It's not quite done. My oven, I have noticed, heats really, really hot. Look how pretty that is on the bottom, where it was on the pan. My oven cooks really hot, especially on the left side. Also on the right side, it's not as hot in the middle. And I learned that when I started cooking bacon in the oven. And the bacon on the very left side of the pan would burn before all the rest of the bacon was even close to thinking about being cooked. So I'm going to kind of load my pan a little more to the right, just because of the way I know my oven cooks. We're going to pop that back in there for another 5 minutes. Alexa, set the timer for 5 minutes.
And then we're back over to planting.
All right, now we're back to tomatoes. So here's our tomato seeds. Still little, not as little as those crazy basil seeds. This was a sample I got somewhere, and I'm going to be honest, I don't even remember where it came from. This is from Bentley Seeds, and this is an heirloom slicing tomato. I don't know what makes them heirloom, I'm going to be totally honest. Typically a slicing tomato is like a beefsteak. So here I'm going to put 4. I'm going to try to put 4 in there. Look, you can actually see those.
Yeah.
So a slicing tomato is more like a beefsteak tomato. A lot of kind of pulp on the inside, so to speak. A lot of, not a lot of juice, but a lot of texture to it. So when you slice it open, it's got like all the, like the lines and all that flesh in there. It doesn't like juice out all over the counter, but it's real thick, nice sandwich tomato. So hopefully that's what we'll end up with out of these. I used to always try to wear gloves when I did this to try to keep my hands somewhat clean, and you just can't handle these little tiny seeds with gloves. Some plants you do want to, some plants definitely need to be started inside. Others like green beans and cucumbers, that kind of stuff you can just plant directly outside right in the garden. But these things, basil, tomatoes, peppers, those plants are just a little more fragile, and they need a little more TLC before they can just go straight outside. So, all right, we got those all taken care of. So the next thing for these is I'm gonna go find somewhere a cover to put on this and kind of make our own little mini greenhouse. I know I've got them from last year somewhere. It's just a clear plastic cover. It sits about this high, and I'm gonna go sit these inside my house in a sunny window and hope that the cats don't get in there, and hope that the 4-year-old doesn't get in there to help. So they need a little supervision in this house. Most places, if you don't have curious helpers, they can just go sit in a sunny spot, and all you have to do is check on them and make sure they're nice and watered.
Or how about under a grow lamp?
A grow lamp would be great if you have a grow light. Yes. Okay. Yep, that'd be perfect. The goal of having that cover on, they really do need it at this point. You want to keep as much heat and moisture in there as possible for the seeds to germinate. Once the seeds have germinated and you've got little plants from the wind, protected from the harsh extremes of noonday sun beating down and cooler temperatures at night. You want them a little more stable. So again, inside your house in a sunny window is a perfect spot for them. And then as these grow, we'll talk some more about what to do with them and when to transplant. So hopefully most of my basil seeds and most of my tomato seeds germinate. And then next week we can take a look at them and see what's going on and talk about thinning, hopefully. I usually will plant peppers at the same time. Tomatoes germinate in about 7 days, and peppers take about 14 days to germinate. So I get to the 7 days and I see my tomato plants are doing great and I get all excited, and my pepper plants are not doing anything and I get pretty bummed. But about 7 days later, the peppers catch up and then everybody looks great. So let me get the dirt out from under my fingernails. Okay. And then we should be about ready to check on the asparagus.
I have never used these little pods.
Aren't they cute?
They're pretty cool. Saves all the mess of like getting a bag of potting soil and trying to start it.
Yeah, and when you're starting seeds, you don't want to use just plain old potting soil either. You need to use a starter soil, and that's what these are. The starter soil, it's got a little finer texture. It's a lot looser, so it's easier for the seeds to break open and to start to grow, and for the baby plant to break through that soil. Whereas topsoil is it's a little more compact, it's a little more dense. And I think that there's different nutrients included in your starter soils than in a regular topsoil. So you do want to look for a starter soil when you're getting ready to do this.
Good to know.
Alexa, stop the timer. All right, let's check out our asparagus. How pretty is that?
I know, I love how bright green it gets.
Yes. So this has been 15 minutes. And you can see it's a little wiggly. That's one of the thicker stalks. Here's one of our thinner ones, and it's a little floppy, right? So that's probably about right. Now, if you had all thin stalks, you might only want to do like 10 or 12 minutes. But since we had kind of a variety of sizes in this one, and they tended to be on the thicker side, we went for 15. So I think those look great. And I'm going to call those done. If you like your asparagus a little more crunchy, cook it a little less. If you like your asparagus a little softer, then cook it a little bit more. But see how beautiful the tops of these look? They're all like nice and golden brown. They look so pretty. They're hot, 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 I'm sure. Okay, let's try again. Well, guys, I don't know what happened, but YouTube decided we were done, I guess, so it cut us off. But here we are back again. Got our asparagus out of the oven. It's delicious. It's hot. It's just very hot. It's just a little bit crunchy, which is just perfect. My husband calls this vegetables al dente, which is like that's the pasta term for just a little crunchy in the middle. This is the way that I love my vegetables. It's got just a little bit of a lemon pepper zing to it from what we put on there. And these are, I mean, I would serve these alongside a nice grilled steak. You can have them with a burger. You can have them with chicken. You can do whatever you want. Let them cool. Throw them on a green salad. It'll be delicious that way. So if you've never cooked with asparagus before, this is a great, easy recipe to start with. Done in 10 to 15 minutes. Practically no prep. Absolutely fantastic. If you want to get a little more adventurous, I've got another recipe on my website. Thank you.
You're welcome.
What's it called? Kielbasa with asparagus and rice.
Ooh.
It's a risotto creamy rice style dish. So good. And it's just store-bought asparagus or store-bought kielbasa sliced up and some asparagus and some short grain rice. So that recipe's on My Fearless Kitchen, and I will drop that link down below in the description in just a little while. I've also got a post on My Fearless Kitchen about how to store asparagus, and it talks all about that handy jar trick. So I will also drop that link down below in just a little while. And then later on, over the next couple days, I'll be putting together the show notes for this episode, so you'll be able to find everything that we talked about, some helpful links and some helpful information. So keep an eye on your notifications. Make sure you subscribed to our channel if you haven't yet, and we will see you guys next Friday. Thank you. Have a good weekend. Stop. We're still going? Are we still live?
We're still live.
Oh my goodness. Technical difficulty. Whoa.
Yeah.
Guys, I don't know what's happening.
YouTube does not like this for that.
No.